I don't know about you all, but I don't feel great after that kind of a performance. And it feels like the team is kind of begging for a pat on the back after the last 2 wins. I mean, we're going to dive fully into it, but we haven't learned anything over the last 2 games. And if not for Justus Annunen having an out-of-body experience at the end of the game, I still don't think that's a goal. The Wild get the win, 3-2 in overtime. But I mean, we got to have a little talk here. So let's dive in.
You are Locked On Wild Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Minnesota Wild win 3-2 on a fluky, fun goal that I think a lot of people are using to gloss over the fact that the Wild got thoroughly outplayed by a Nashville Predators team that got in at 2 a.m. on the second night of a back-to-back, playing their backup goalie, and the Wild looked like the husk being dragged around the ice. I got to tell you, folks, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. They beat a Vancouver team that was missing their top 7 players, including Quinn Hughes, 7 of their top however many, because Elias Pettersson did play. And it feels like we're at the point where it's like, hey, we're back on track. Like, give us a pat on the back. No, I'm not going to. This still the same things going on, and you make a backup goalie look like a Vezina contender. You're still saying, well, we're going with Ben Jones on the fourth line because he gives us a better chance to win faceoffs. He got 2 of them. Like this, it feels like the Wild are trying to pull the wool over our eyes. They're trying to pull the wool over our eyes and say, hey, 2-game winning streak. You doubted us. And we're back. Go beat Carolina. Go beat Carolina if you want me to be impressed. I'm not going to be impressed by a team that got off to a horrendous start this year and is trying to turn the page like it's nothing. I applaud the thought. If I had a rough month, I would try to do the same thing, but you can't just erase it. Now you're going to be fighting an uphill battle the rest of the season if you want to try to be a playoff team. But I've got news for you. You have a lot of things that have to get ironed out. And 5-on-5 scoring it feels like is getting worse. It feels like it's getting worse as we go into the season. Let's check the numbers, check the stats. The Minnesota Wilds tonight, your average expected goals is 3, give or take. The Minnesota Wild generated 3.67 goals. Justus Annunen was above expected. The Predators generated 3.85. So Philip Gustafsson had himself a solid night, but there's so many lax stretches of play and so much careless play with the puck, with passes, with just general approach, general demeanor. And I'm going to kind of spoil it a little bit because I've got an episode. I recorded an episode while the game was going on that's going to be coming out here once the postcast is done. I'm getting a little tired. I'm getting a little tired of the there's been a lot of talk about identity. Judd's Hockey Show talked about it extensively yesterday. We're going to keep talking about it. I've mentioned it in previous episodes. Working hard is not an identity. Working hard is a trait. If I'm going to use the same analogy here that I used in the episode, because I think it's a pretty dang good one. If you go to a job interview and you are asked by the hiring manager, what are some of your characteristics, your traits? You're going to use hard worker at that point. But is hard work going to get an airplane off the ground? Is hard work going to complete open heart surgery? Is hard work going to defuse a bomb? No. If you're trying to close a big sale, like as a salesperson, working hard, that's not like, it's not an identity. It's not an identity. And so when we hear, we just got to get back to our identity. Okay, if you are going to get back to playing hard, sure, that's awesome, but that's not your identity. The Minnesota Wild's identity is, we got to cross our fingers and hope that Kirill Kaprizov can give us enough goals to win. You're playing a fourth line that's non-existent. You are, and the other part of this too, and look, good for Marcus Johansson. Good for Marcus Johansson that he's found a hot stretch. But the amount of celebration that has been going on for that, for a guy who 90% of the games that he's played have ended in one shot or fewer, the fact that he's tied for second on the team in goals right now. Yeah, he's having a great stretch. He's playing well. Full credit to him. But I'm worried about this team and some of the comments that have been made about the players that Bill Guerin is looking at. I'm worried that this team is going to do what they have done far too often and say, he's playing like this now, he's going to play like this for the rest of the season. So instead of actually trying to make an impact at the top of the lineup, we're just going to go get another middle six guy. Russo said in the latest Worst Seats in the House that the Minnesota Wild checked in on and were told that Nick Robertson is not available. Not the Jason Robertson, Nick Robertson from the Toronto Maple Leafs, who is a middle six grinder that can offer you some level of physicality. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. And checking in on Pavel Zacha, who is big and physical. You're checking in on Casey Middlestat as a center. This is not a rut. This is not a rut. This is Bill Guerin's dream personified. This is exactly what Bill Guerin wants this roster to look like, because he thinks it's capable of winning and competing. It is a roster that is begging and praying for Kirill Kaprizov to bail them out of a jam every single night, and occasionally to have Matt Boldy do it. So you'll forgive me if I don't heap praise on after a win against a very injured Vancouver team and a Nashville team that is, quite frankly, not good. If you want to convince me that the turnaround has happened, go beat Carolina on the road. Go beat Carolina on the road. Go look like Nashville did tonight against the New York Islanders on the second night of a back-to-back on Friday night. Then we'll talk. But no, Brett. Yurov is not injured. He was initially pulled out of the lineup. For a breather. And because the Wild wanted to get Ben Jones into the lineup because he gave them a better chance to win faceoffs. That is not a misrepresentation. That is not a exaggeration. That is a direct quote from John Hines. I'm telling you, it's been a couple of years, folks. I tried to avoid this like the plague last year. But I am full out in the villain era this season. And these types of games are going to be treated as such. Nashville, second night of a back-to-back, and backup goaltender. And you can't generate one 5-on-5 goal the entire game. Ben Jones is now 31 games without a point in his career. I mean, somebody stop me if I'm speaking out of tune here. But it just, I'm not going to declare this team back from the dead because of what we've seen over the last 2 days, because we have not seen anything different. We've seen an extension of the same. 2 power play goals. I'm glad the power play looks great, but guess what? You can't rely on power play scoring for an entire season. In fact, that would be really interesting to know is how close are the Wild to having more power play goals than 5-on-5 goals this season? Because I feel like it's got to be close. Too close. But I might have to do another episode about that. Are we still on the first point watch for Foligno, Jones, Pitlick, Gus, and Juracek? I do believe so. I do believe that's the case. Yeah, Juracek did not have any tonight. Pitlick played 5 minutes, 43 seconds. You want to know why I think this team just looks off and a mess? Is because they are just heaping minutes on 2 or 3 guys and are basically just stapling a full line to the bench. I don't. I need to break before I gasket. So let's do that. Let's get to some questions. So here we're gonna try a little format tweak here. If you have if you have any questions while I am in commercial break, leave them in the chat so we can line them up nice, and I can get to them after the break. But 2 points. Ring the bell. Get the hat. Get the hat. Ring the bell. We'll be back after this. Today's postcast is brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest. Most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch simplifies the whole process. One app is all you need. No more bank apps, no more credit card apps, no more Wall Street portfolio apps. It's all in one spot. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Tonight's postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minnesota Wild win 3-2 in overtime. A game that, and I completely forgot about this. If you're playing that turtle shell thing again at the end of regulation, and Steven Stamkos just buries one to get it to OT. You know what? You know what I would have loved to have seen? You know what I would have loved to have seen tonight? And the postcast would have had a completely different feel to it. If you would have flipped situations here, and the Wild would have been on the second night of a back-to-back and played like the Predators did and been trailing all the way to the end and get a game-tying goal with under a second to play in regulation, I would have been through the moon. Hey, they didn't get the win ultimately, but they battled their tails off. They played hard on the second night of a back-to-back in adverse conditions, and they got a point. They gutted it out. That's what winning teams do. No, I can't do any of that because you haven't played since Saturday. And it just, all of it is just so, like, it just feels like it is such an ordeal for them to get up off the bench every game. So that's where I'm at. Let's get to some questions here. Do you think Zeev is playing as expected or below or above expected? I don't really know, Britt, to be honest, because he has been taken out of basically every situation that is of high leverage because John Hines can't handle the turnovers. The couple of turnovers that happen here and there. He can't handle them. So he's been pulled out of every high leverage situation that exists in this lineup. And up until tonight, the Minnesota Wild had not scored on the power play since he was taken out of the lineup. But yeah, thank God they're not committing those turnovers. So I don't really know how to answer that because there is just there's just no, like, I don't feel like we're seeing him in different spots to be able to tell where he's at in his development. He's just being deployed on the third pairing every night. He did get some power play time tonight, but he's third fiddle on the power play behind Jared Spurgeon and Brock Faber right now. So you are just as low variance as you possibly can. And if you can't tell by my tone, that is irritating. I feel like I'm just a broken record at this point, and I think probably the operative word is broken, but I don't know. Like we just continue to see the same things every single night. Just a different shade of paint on the same decrepit house. Every night. The Wild are proving you don't have to be old to be slow. That's accurate. We knew Zeev would be much better on the power play than 5-on-5. I'd say this is pretty close to expected. I just wish we could see a little more from it. But can we blame Hines for sitting guys when they turn the puck over when the team can't even score on 5-on-5? I'd like to, but I just until people actually like physically say things like, yeah, we're not off to a good start. I was floored by the fact that key members of the team said that the start hasn't been good. It's like I just don't get the sense that anybody has any inkling of where things are at right now. And, like going into the season, like just imagine how the conversations went going into the season. Like, okay, guys, where are we gonna stack up in the Central Division again? Well, you got Winnipeg, you got Dallas, you got Colorado. They're going to be pretty tough this year, and boy, we're just gonna slot right into that fourth spot because Utah, Chicago, they haven't gotten any better. And you look over on the Pacific Division, yeah, it's going to be Vegas, it's going to be Edmonton, it's going to be Los Angeles, because none of those teams have gotten any better either. Hey, guess what? Utah is way better. Chicago is, I think, going to be plucky this year. I like using the word plucky. I don't know why, but Chicago is going to be plucky. Like it feels like Groundhog Day. It feels like we woke up at the start of last season. I want to get to this one. Who's this Pitlick guy? I enjoyed watching his fan pass or whatever that was that led right to a goal. Why is this guy even in the lineup? Because he's not a rookie. Because he's not a young player. And because young players can't touch him. Can't touch him because they could potentially make a mistake. You can't have that in the lineup. I feel like I've cracked. I feel like I've cracked. I feel like I have. What if the Wild win the next two games? Won't we all be singing a different tune? Maybe if they would. But Gary, if we've seen anything from this Minnesota Wild team, it's that consistency is just not in the vocabulary. And it would not shock me in the slightest if they beat Carolina and then they get routed by the Islanders. When you would think that the opposite would happen. You'd think the flip side would happen. But only if they score in 5-on-5. Next 5-on-5 goal for me is gonna that's gonna get a standing ovation. I don't even know when was the last. Well, I suppose they've been averaging like one. They've been averaging like one 5-on-5 goal a game, which is unconscionable how bad the 5-on-5 scoring has been. Goals for in 5-on-5. So the number one team in the NHL right now in 5-on-5 goals is the Toronto Maple Leafs at 35. I have not seen this list yet. Let's guess where the Wild are at in 5-on-5. I'm going to say they're at 15. The Minnesota Wild have 19 5-on-5 goals. They're dead last. Well, they're tied with Seattle and Dallas and Florida somehow. But slightly under half. Dead last in the league in, what have they played now? 14 games. In 14 games, they have 19 5-on-5 goals. The top team in the league last year in 5-on-5 goals was the Columbus Blue Jackets. They had 201 on the season. Minnesota Wild last year, 29th in the league. They had 148. Think about that. 200. You're gonna force me to do math. 201 5-on-5 goals for Columbus last year, and the Minnesota Wild had. Actually, it's not as much math as I thought it was. That was goals against. Excuse me. The Wild had 141 5-on-5 goals last year. 60 fewer 5-on-5 goals in an 82-game season. Basically a goal a game. It's not sustainable. And as far as the flip side goes, 5-on-5 goals against, the Minnesota Wild have surrendered the 7th most. The Minnesota Wild in 14 games are minus 11 in 5-on-5 goals. And wait till this fourth line episode comes out once we're done here. I went through over the last 4 seasons. Oh, we get to talk about Murat tonight, Luke. I went back through the last 3 or 4 seasons and looked at all the different players the Wild have tried at the bottom of the lineup since Brandon Duhaime and Connor Dewar were traded because they wanted too much money. That list is a nightmare. So that's coming out once we're done here. So when Zucchi and Sturm return, what happens with Yurov? Does he pick Iowa or go back to Mother Russia? Well, that's interesting because now he has sat for a couple of games, and now because they won again tonight, he's probably sitting again. And if guys are not going to play, at this point, get them out of here. I am just sick to death of this. They got to earn it. If he's not going to play, if Yurov is not going to play, he needs to go to Iowa or wherever else. The only thing that he needs at this point is minutes. And if you're not going to give him there, if you value the 5 minutes that you gave Tyler Pitlick tonight, or the 7 minutes you gave Ben Jones, or the 9 minutes you gave Yakov Trenyan, if you value that more, then send Yurov to Iowa or wherever else. It's not even a strategy. It's just I don't even know what it is, but I don't know why people are talking Brazzers up like he didn't score 10 goals early last season and never did anything ever again for either Boston or Minnesota. Guy's just an early season merchant. Well, he's not a physical tough guy like the Wild tried to turn him into. They tried to turn him into a fourth line bruiser. Because why not? Hey, he's big. He can play that role. You sure about that? Are you sure about that? I am. I got a lot of thoughts. But I don't know. At some point, we're just kind of banging our heads into the wall. And it probably would be much better energy channeled if I popped these into episodes as opposed to just screaming over and over again. So my one big thing for tonight's game. Let's talk about that to finish up. My one big thing for tonight's game is you've got to make a legitimate effort to get a finisher on this team. Find a way to track that statistically. A finisher. Somebody who can actually, like, plenty of guys that can shoot. Get somebody that can get the GD puck in the net. And if that's a prospect, you play him. If that's somebody else on another team, go get him. I can't watch this battery acid eyewash that is 5-on-5. I cannot watch this for the rest of the season as it currently sits. Go do something. And with that, I'm out. Thanks for joining the postcast here tonight. As always, Minnesota Wild 3-2 overtime win over the Nashville Predators here tonight. They'll be in action again on Thursday against the Carolina Hurricanes. We will postcast that for you as well. So make sure to tune in then. Otherwise, make sure to like and subscribe. Join us on YouTube so you never miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.